Good day, ma'am. Good day, classmates. I am the first reporter of Group 5. My name is Joseph S. Peña. So, our topic is Chapter 5, The Future of Corrections. So, the overview of my report is to know how the government addressed the issue in increasing number of inmates or prisoners, how the government addressed the needs of our correction system, and explain the role of community in correction. So it has been observed that the government is relentless in pursuing its dream of having a modern concept in dealing law violators and convicted offenders. So that's why the government was enacted many laws to address the needs of our correction system. So like kanang practice like providing livelihood and education programs inside penal facilities were strengthened. Good conduct time allowance or the GCTA per virtue of RA 10592, which is approved on May 29, 2013, which the offenders showing positive response towards the treatment were given an increased numbers of days of good conduct time allowance or the GCTA, and also qualified offenders were released either through absolute parole, absolute pardon, or conditional pardon and or parole. The Bureau of Corrections, by virtue of RA 10575, otherwise known as the Bureau of Corrections Act of 2013, which strengthening the Bureau of Corrections, approved on May 24, 2013, is another milestone in the development of our correctional past. In accordance with the policy of the states to promote the general welfare and safeguard the basic rights of every prisoner incarcerated in different jails and prisons nationwide, basic rights and observance of the person's dignity were emphasized. Due to increasing number of arrests and convictions, additional facilities, both national and local jails are needed. However, the state must not focus only on the construction of buildings to house convict and those awaited final disposition of cases, but also on the establishment of emergence of strategy known as the modern corrections. Modern correctional policies, which is the focus siya sa individual's offender. It is somewhat an alternative aspect of corrections, trying to emerge with the traditional way of addressing to criminalities, putting an offender inside the jail, serving their sentence for a certain time fixed by the convicted court is a good example of traditional corrections. Then, ang contemporary aspect of corrections kay emphasize siya sa principle of self-help and self-rehabilitation. Then, ang contemporary corrections, which is ang community-based corrections, allows the country to have a significant savings of the slice of the budget from the national government. Imbis ang prisoner ka person sa jail or sa prison, kung i-release siya sa community, may mo siya nga taxpayer. Unless kung dili siya i-release, may mo siya tax eater. So, that's why na significant savings of the budget from the national government kung i-release ang usa ka prisoner sa community. Kung qualified siya sa parole, probation, pardon, ingana. The prevailing situations of the country are among the few aspects that influence the future of our correctional policies. Political arenas plays an innovative role in correctional fields, not to mention our economic, social, and moral influence. Other countries abroad have opened the possibilities of privatizing the correctional sector, assuming that it will bring a more advanced and technological enhancement treatment program. The advent of advanced technology was integrated to the practice of monitoring offenders. Granted, clemency is a possibility in other states yet too far from realization in the country. These things would be another milestone in the correctional fields since everything requires legislation. So, the Philippines setting is too far from having that concept applied into practice. So, specialists in the countries are blind with the idea of constructing more jails to address the increasing number of inmates and those awaiting trials and final disposition of their case. So the list of problems confronting the Philippine correctional system is endless and may vary from other correctional institutions. So mao ni siya nga problem. The low budget from national government, which is a way make the jail not fit for rehabilitation. So because of low budget, lack pay of jail officer, lack of benefits, coupled with intense pressure of their job. With all these realities, the public expect much more from correctional pillar, having totally reformed individual once released from jail. So so it so the public was expect that if the offender was released and go back to the community is totally reformed, but it is a long worse dilemma of the society and the general public as a whole. It is accepted reality that there is an endless struggle in the effort of having a more humane and standard correctional system in the country. The worst case scenario of our correctional system would continue and further chaos would be expected if the present problems are not addressed by the concerned agencies. The problems of dilapidated jails, the lack of training as one among the issue where there is failure of the system to rehabilitate offender contributes to the inefficiency of the institution. Continued overcrowding is evident in our jail and penal institution nationwide. The lack of management and leadership in corrections is another negative feedback towards the organization. However, continued in-service training involves our jail officer were done regularly to address this negative image. Correctional system is evolving, hence the jail officer and staff needs to upgrade and enhance their capacity to deal with different and varied clientele, which is the prisoner. The present programs adopted and implemented by correctional institutions like vocational training, educations, and other institutional-based programs may be directed to a new perspective, more so with our non-institutional programs and procedures. Role of the community in corrections. So, the Philippine criminal justice system is composed of 5 pillars or the 5 agencies. So, we have the law enforcement, the prosecution, judiciary or court, the corrections, and the community. So, it is said that only in the Philippines or only in our country where community is considered as one of the pillars of the criminal justice system, an inclusion only in the local setting happens where other states have only 3 or 4 pillars. So this is the Philippine criminal justice process. A person who was violated, mapunta siya sa law enforcement pillar, apprehended by the police or any enforcement agency like the NBI, narcotic groups, etc. So, pwede siyang ma-reverted to the community. Once the case may be dive where no sufficient grounds sustain complaint against the suspect. Pero if there is sufficient ground, which is mapunta na po siya sa next nga pillar, which is the prosecution pillar, where diri nga pillar kay persecuted for the alleged offense committed. But the case may be diverted where no probable cause can sustain prosecution. Pero if there is kanang probable cause that can sustain a prosecution, mapunta na po siya sa court pillar where diri na po siya gitried. Pero ma-reverted siya sa community once the case may be diverted where the evidence is not enough for conviction of the offender. And then sa correctional pillar, if convicted, either serves his sentence in jail or prison or is placed on probation. In case of imprisonment, full service of sentence, the diversion take place should the grant of parole, conditional pardon, probation is but self-diversion process. So mapunta na po siya or mabalik na siya sa community, which is called the community pillar. Institutions like family, barangay, the school, religious sector, civic organizations, government and non-government organizations, and other community agencies, among others, are involved in the community pillar. So, part ya po siya sa community pillar, even ang family. So, these agencies must engage in a collaborative effort with the ultimate purpose of promoting public peace. These institutions adhere to the principle of social defense, imposing certain limits of individuals' behavior for the common good. Along that line, it is a common understanding that community is a core of community justice system. So the community model is a core of the criminal justice system, which is the maintenance of peace and order, fighting criminality, prosecuting those who violated the law of the states, consequently needs community participation, as well as convicted offenders who were released either through successful service of the sentence in prison or released by virtue of pardon or absolute or conditional pardon or parole, and those granted provisions requires community acceptance. Hence, society's hesitations and the condemnations towards released offenders spoil the entire criminal justice process. Convicted offenders who were released either through successful service in the sentence in prison or released by virtue of absolute pardon or conditional pardon or parole, and those granted provision requires community acceptance. So dapat nato sila, so as part of the community, dapat nato silang gi-accept. Hence, society's hesitations and condemnations towards released offenders spoil the entire criminal justice system. So different agencies like non-government organizations and other government organizations play a very crucial role in promoting the general welfare and accountability of all concerned stakeholders in the system. It is a mandate under Section 23, Article 2 of the Philippine Constitution that states very clearly, the state shall encourage non-governmental, community-based, or sectoral organizations to promote the welfare of the nation. Hence, all stakeholders must have a collaboration towards rehabilitative effort of the Philippine government. So ang mga agencies like kanang sa non-government organizations or government organizations kay na-play sila as a very crucial role because they promoting the general welfare and accountability of the nations.